Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And an easy, rainbow, shimmery 5x7 birthday card. Card sizes. I get asked a lot why most of my cards are standard North American A2 size, which is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. Honestly, that's the size I've been using for the last 20 years, since before I started card making, because most of our cardstock is 8.5 by 11 inches. Cut it in half, fold it, regardless of which way you cut it and which way you fold it, it becomes an A2 size card. Now, that said, there's many sizes. I've done slimline, mini slimline, sometimes square cards, not very often, and 5x7. And I do like them. I just don't do it very often. So I thought I would just address that, and you do what works for you. That's kind of the beauty of card making. You know, it's fun, and it's fun to mix it up sometimes. So that's what I did today because I needed more space, which is always good. And I'm using this sweet birthday stamp set. This is part of the Simon Says Stamp June 2024 card kit. At the end of this video, I will post the link to the unboxing video I did using this kit, like unboxing it, and I made a couple cards with it. And the set is available separately as well. So I'll have links to all the things. And yeah, heat embossing, some simple ink blending, shimmery splatter, because you guys know what I love. And yeah, it was just a really fun little birthday card. So, like I mentioned, links will be to all the things in the description box below the video. All of my links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links, end up placing an order, I get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. It's what helps pay the bills and fund the channel. And yeah, let's get into making this card. So I pulled out a piece of Simon's 120-pound smooth white cardstock. And I'm using my anti-static powder tool on here generously. The anti-static powder just helps prevent the embossing powder from clinging to anything other than the stamped image. And then I'm stamping the cupcake topper, like the icing, and then the base using clear embossing ink. And I'm just using an acrylic block for this since I'm stamping everything multiple times. Because if I was to use my Misty, I would have to keep either, repositioning the stamp or moving the cardstock, etc. And it's just easier. It's faster and easier to use a block. Or if you don't have acrylic blocks and all you have is a stamp positioner, you could just cut down the cardstock into individual pieces. Because I've shown doing that as well. And then you could just stamp, repeat. That works too. This just worked. And my stamps weren't very clean. There's a little bit of residue when I stamped it, but that doesn't matter because it's getting covered with the embossing powder. So I coated everything with Simon's Smooth or Detail White embossing powder, tapped off the excess, and then I'm going to melt all that with my heat tool so that everything is smooth and melted and kind of looks, like nothing. But the magic is when we're going to add all of the ink colors. So I've had a lot of requests lately from people to just link to the trios because Simon's Pawsitively saturated inks, they come individually, but they also are in trios, like a light, a medium, and a dark. So I've switched over to that. I just linked to the trio that I've, pulled a color from. In this case, I'm using the darkest shade from each trio of inks. So that first color was rose, and then I did mandarin, and then I'm doing citrine. And then the next one will be Perfection. And I use a blending brush and I'm just blending it over top. And then the thing to always remember is regardless of what type of ink you're using, some of that ink is going to sit on top of the heat embossing. So you just want to wipe that off. So I just use a little cloth and wipe it off and we're good to go. So this one was Ocean, and then the last one will be Amethyst. And I just make sure I've got like a little clean section of my cloth each time. It's like blend a bit of the ink on and then wipe off the ink that's sitting on top of the embossing, and we're good to go. So then for the cupcake bases, I pulled out the Rainbow Splash ink in Buttercream. I've talked about this a couple times in recent videos. I'm really liking this color because I don't have this color in any other inks. It's just a nice kind of cream shade. And I was like, ooh, they'll be like little vanilla cupcakes. So I used just a smaller blending brush, blended this on. All of this is going to look like a hot mess until it's die cut. So bear with me. And then for the little cupcake liners, I just took the Rainbow Splash ink in Gravel. So just a light gray. And I'm using a very light hand. Just light. Again, it looks like a hot mess, but it's fine. And I just kind of blended it from the bottom just to kind of give a teensy bit of shading. And again, wiped off the excess with my cloth. And then I cut all these pieces apart because I have the coordinating dies for this specific little cupcake set, which I showed in the unboxing video, come in the kit. And so I'm going to die cut these, but I've only got like one cupcake topper die, one little base die. So I separated them all because this will just make it easier. And this is the type of thing where this is where I'll zone out. It's like attach the dies. I just use a little bit of tape so they don't shift, and then I die cut. And it's just repetitive, you know? So it's like I just zone out either in my own head or I'm, watching something, listening to something, whatever. And I do all my die cutting. And then I set those aside. For my sentiments, I pulled out my Misty for this because I had a feeling I was probably going to want to stamp the sentiments a couple times to make sure that I got everything stamped, because these sentiments are hefty. They're very bold sentiments. They're from that same stamp set. And I'm using black cardstock, and I use the same anti-static powder tool, and then stamp the sentiments a couple times with that same clear embossing ink, and then detail white embossing powder, and making sure I get good coverage, since this is going to be the focus of the card. So got that coated, tapped off the excess, melted that with my heat tool. And then with this, I just used my microfiber cloth and a little bit of elbow grease to remove that excess anti-static powder. And I'd made sure to line up the sentiments straight on the cardstock before I stamp them so that I can easily trim them with my paper trimmer. There is a coordinating wafer die set that doesn't come in the kit. It's a separate purchase that you can get to like die cut the sentiments. I don't have that, so I just trimmed down with my paper trimmer and we're good to go. So I got my sentiments. Now I just need to assemble my little cupcakes. So I'm just using a bit of craft tacky glue to glue the icing to each little cupcake here, so that all of them are basically one piece, because that'll just make it easier to adhere to my card front. And this glue tool, for those that haven't seen it, this is just a precision glue press. I always have everything I use, including the tools, linked with the supplies. And then with this one specifically, I did do a review on my channel a couple months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, something like that. So I did a review on it, like a separate review. And yeah, I use it with Simon's Craft Tacky Glue, which I discuss in that review as well, because Simon's Craft Tacky Glue, it's a pretty thick glue, but that's just what I personally like. So I got my little cupcakes assembled. And then this panel of cardstock is like 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 inches. It's going to be a little bit smaller than my 5x7 card base, but this was why I went with a 5x7, because with all 6 cupcakes, I needed a little bit more real estate. So hence the bigger card. So I lined up all my cupcakes, and when I was happy with like the spacing and whatnot, I popped them into place with foam squares. And this time I used, regulation thickness, like normal sized foam squares. So these are popped up quite a bit, just because I find when I do things a little more simple, it's kind of fun to add a little bit more dimension than I normally do. Because while I use a ton of foam tape and that sort of stuff, I usually go with the thinner foam tapes. Just cause. Trying to explain the madness going on. So after I got them adhered, of course I'm going to add splatter. This is the Picket Fence Studios liquid paper watercolor. Oh, my brain just stopped as usual. Okay. Picket Fence Studios paper splatter watercolor liquid white snowflake. There we go. It's just shimmery. Very similar look to Ranger Perfect Pearl Powder and water. This is just more convenient. So I put that on my palette. I put the background into my splat box, and then I splattered this with my little fan brush, and it just creates like just perfect shimmery splatter that's not super in your face, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, I let it dry. I didn't follow the mistake that I showed in the last video where I flipped the card front over onto the floor accidentally because I'm clumsy and like smeared some of the splatter. This time I let it dry before wrapping some black and white baker's twine around this, and then of course reverse tweezers to hold the knot in place so I could sit there and zhuzh and fiddle with my little bow until I get it the way I want it. And then you pull it tight, remove the reverse tweezers, and then I fiddle with it some more. And then once I'm happy with it, I can trim down the tail ends. And then to adhere the sentiment strips, I'm going to use some thinner foam squares this time. And the shorter part, the happy word, was easy to just pop into place. The birthday, because it was so big, I'm going to stack a couple of foam squares onto the card front here just to stick under there so that it doesn't end up like getting squished or whatever. And once I've got those into place, I can peel off the backing and then stick that little sentiment just like so. And then my card base is a 5x7 note card. Simon actually sells these like pre-cut and scored. I didn't even know, like I have the other ones, like I use their A2 ones all the time. I didn't even know they had 5x7. I just came across them the one day and then I ordered a pack. As of doing this voiceover, I think they're out of stock, but they will restock them. So it's just convenience. It's just convenience. You can cut down cardstock too, you know, cut it down to 10 inches by, or 7 inches by 10 inches. And then you score it at 5. And that's your 5x7 note card. Anything works. So this is the inside of my card. I use my trusty little piece of Post-it tape so I don't stamp past the score line. And then I took the kind of confetti, sparkly, whatever image from the set, and I'm just stamping it all around the perimeter of the inside of the card with the same inks I use for the blending. And without re-inking the stamp, I'm stamping it multiple times so you get the first, second, third generation of it. Just because you need something on the inside. And in this case, it was like, it's like a party on the inside. You know, you'll open it up and it's like, woo, all the confetti, without actually putting, you know, confetti or that sort of thing on the inside of the card. So stamped all of that in all those colors. And then I took one of the sentiments from that same stamp set. And this I'm going to stamp in Simon's Intense Black ink onto the inside of the card. Just like so. And then I can remove my Post-it tape, fold my card closed, and then to stick the card front onto the card base, I'm going to put a little bit of Big Mama foam tape because that'll give it, again, a little bit more dimension. Plus, it just helps everything kind of lay flat because I've got the bulk of the baker's twine running right down the middle of it. So get that popped into place. And then the final little bit of bling, because, you know, splatter's not always enough. We got to add a bit of bling too. So I've got these Starshine confetti, which I use a lot because it goes with everything. So I figured out sort of where I wanted to put these. And once I was happy with where I had them, I'm just going to adhere these into place with little dabs of Craft Tacky glue, just picking them up with my little embellishment wand here, and then tucking them in and around all of these cupcakes. And then once these are adhered into place, this card is complete. So like I mentioned in the intro, I will have links to all the things listed in the description box below the video. I'll also have a link to my blog post, and in the blog post there's the photos and picture links. It's a little easier to navigate. And then in the end screen, I will also post a link to that video I did unboxing the card kit and making those other cards, so you can check that out if you're interested. Thank you all so very much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, for commenting. It helps a ton and I really appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you, and I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.